All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Ballet 101, Decoding the Art Form for New Audience. My name is Etienne. I'm a former principal dancer from Singapore Ballet, now choreographer and show creator. Before we begin, please raise your hand if this is your first ever ballet performance. I don't think so. All right, well, if ever it is, you are certainly in good hands today. And if you have watched ballet before, I'm sure you'll enjoy this too. Now, when I hear people being hesitant about watching ballet, it's often because it's an old art form, they think they wouldn't understand the performance, or it's too atas. So we have designed this performance to get people excited and interested about ballet and to make it easily understandable. And we will have a little Q&A section later during the performance, so you can ask all the questions that you may have. So let's welcome on stage two former principal dancers from Singapore Ballet, Chihiro Uchida and Kenya Nakamura. So ballet is made of a number of steps that choreographers use as tools for their creations. But before putting these steps together, ballet dancers practice them during the ballet class. And that is something that we do every day, not only to warm up, but to perfect our technique and our performance the same way any athlete would do in sports. Right. So the ballet class usually lasts about an hour and a half. It starts at the bar, the ballet bar, like the one you can see on stage where the dancers are setting up. And we use the bar to help us balance, but also to do a couple of stretches like Kenya is doing right now. The ballet bar follows a pattern of exercises. It starts with small exercises of warm-up and some stretches, and gradually evolves into bigger movements with more challenging balances and higher legs. Please enjoy. So, as you watch the daily bar practice of a dancer, I'm sure some of the body lines and shapes start to become more familiar. And there are many ways to put these steps together to create different combinations with variations of arms and directions as well. But of course, we cannot be holding onto the bar during a performance. So after the ballet bar, we move on to the center work, meaning the center of the studio. The process is similar. We start with exercises that challenge our balance and our coordination, and then we add rotations called turns or pirouettes. This section, as the steps become more complicated and the combinations become more complicated, we also start to travel through the space. And the last section of the class is the jumps. The jumps, same thing, we start with smaller jumps to warm up and move on to medium and then much bigger jumps. And usually at the end of the class, the dancers give a bow to the teacher just to thank them. I guess I'm the teacher too. Alright, I think it's time to give the dancers a little break. Thank you. Alright, so who over here has ever taken a ballet class? I think we have one young gentleman over here that is a perfect assistant for today. Please come over here. Please careful where you step. Hello, young man. What's your name?
Timothy.
And where do you work at the moment?
Singapore Ballet.
Yeah, I could tell. So you've done ballet before?
Yeah, I think.
A couple of classes at least. Nice. All right. So let's together let's demonstrate the 5 ballet positions. Yes? Do you know them? All right. Okay, let's go. So first position. That's right. Heels together and toes apart. You can see it's perfectly made and perfectly done over here. What a training. Second position. So same thing, but with some space between the heels, and you notice how the legs are always rotated outwards. It's what we call turnout or en dehors in ballet. Hold it. Okay, cool. And then a third position. So in third position, not in French technique. Third position, that will be heels in front. That's it. Yes, so the heels are together and the feet are closed like this. That's right. Fourth position, which is how you start your multiple pirouettes. Here you go. So 1 foot in front and 1 foot back. And last one, which is probably the most famous position in ballet, is the 5th position. So 1 foot front, 1 foot back, nice and tight and flat. There you go. Beautiful work. Please give Timothy a round of applause. Thank you very much. You can go back over here. You brought this onto yourself coming here. But thank you for the support. It's nice to have great friends. All right. So one of the great things about ballet is that they are usually based on stories and fairy tales that are usually quite familiar, with stories that aren't overly complicated, so you can actually sit back, relax, and enjoy the dancing. But even if you're attending a performance that has a story that you may not know or that you probably feel is a bit more complicated, you don't need to worry, because every performance usually comes with a program booklet, whether it's printed or digital, that would give you all the information that you need to know about the performance, like the story, the characters in the story, the casting, or even the history behind the company performing or the ballet itself. So the next thing you will see is a pas de deux. A pas de deux is a duet between 2 performers, and in classical dance it is usually a duet between a male and a female dancer. They have their respective roles, so the male dancer usually is here to assist and partner the ballerina, while the ballerina performs on point and actually takes years to master. I'm sure you've seen a pair of pointe shoes before, but if you haven't, it looks like this. So a pointe shoe is a specifically designed shoe that has a hard sole and tip and allows the ballerina to dance on her toes and appears as if she's defying gravity and floating through the space. It really takes years to master, and I'm going to pass this one around with the other side, obviously, because most ballerinas have 2 feet. So you can have a look at it closely. Please pass it around and return it to, you can separate the pair as well. And please return it to the ushers at some point. That's right. There you go. So, as you see, the shoe is designed like this. It probably wouldn't stay on the ballerina's foot for very long, and it would probably fall off very easily. So ballerinas actually go through a process of preparation for each pair of shoes. They sew a pair of ribbons and some elastic on each pair. It's actually quite time consuming, as they do everything by hand. Okay, and it looks like this one. I have the friend over there, but obviously my hands are a bit taken right now. All right, so do you actually have any idea of how long a pair of pointe shoe would last? Roughly? No cheating over there.
3 months.
So a pair of pointe shoe can actually last anything from a few hours to a few days, and it really depends on the program and what the ballerina is dancing, or the conditions, like dancing outside, for example, doesn't make the shoe last for very long. Bear in mind that each pair of shoe is somewhere around $100 US, so you can imagine when you've got to do 8 to 10 shows for a weekend, and some ballerinas use multiple pairs per show. I'll let you do the calculations. So in our next section, we will be showing you the pas de deux from Paquita. While Paquita is not one of the most famous ballets, it is a perfect representation of a classical pas de deux between the 2 main characters of a ballet. It happens at the very end of the ballet, and it is the wedding scene between Lucien and Paquita. Please enjoy. All right, thank you very much. Please go ahead and have a little break. All right, I think this is the perfect time for you guys to ask your questions that you may have about dance, about this program, about a career. Please raise your hand and then we will bring the mic to you if you have anything to ask. Anything over there? Yes, a mic over here, thank you.
Hello there. So I'm very curious about ballerina's diet.
I think this is a very common question. I think maybe in the past there was definitely some stigmas around ballerinas not eating and starving themselves. I think nowadays there's just so much information about nutrition and how about to feed yourself as an athlete. So it's definitely not what you think. I think ballerinas eat their normal meals a day. They just eat very healthy. But remember that when you're dancing 8 hours a day in rehearsals or in performance, you definitely lose a lot of weight, you know. So you tend to like constantly stay quite slim because 8 hours of exercise a day is actually quite a lot. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah, over there, please. Please raise your hand again so that we'll bring you a mic. Yeah.
Hi, I was just wondering, so like for music we read scores and then we rehearse based on the scores, and it takes us like, you know, some amount of time to memorize or read the scores. So what do you guys use to learn the choreography, and how long does it take you guys to learn, you know, whatever steps or choreography you have to do for a particular piece of music?
So that's actually a very interesting question. So as I was saying, in ballets, in ballet in general, we have steps, and ballet comes from France. So the ballet, the steps, the name of the steps are actually in French. They all have names. If you are French like myself, there are names that are used, like action names, like plié, tendu, stretch, things that actually mean things. But you have other names like arabesque, which would be like this or something. So those are terms that we use. It's a vocabulary that we use as dancers to communicate together, right? So for example, when we are creating something like with Chihiro and Kenya, if I tell them, okay, a piqué arabesque on the right leg, for her, right away, it's this step. It's something that is logical. However, traditionally, there's not a lot of writing about the ballets and the steps for each creation. Traditionally, it is more passed on like by, from a teacher to a student. But eventually, some techniques were developed to be noting and writing down dance. Not everybody used the same. There are a few ways to write down. For example, I was never trained to write dance, so I just write it the way I want. I have my own system to write my steps. But this is where we start. The base of how we communicate in rehearsals is through the ballet terms, if that makes sense.
Right. So when you are dancing for performance in your head, you're thinking of the sequence.
Oh my gosh, no. I think it's so hard to describe when you've done ballet your whole life. But when you learn a ballet, eventually it just becomes the steps and the music together, and you just follow a pattern, like you follow a body memory. You build up this body memory in rehearsals, and then you don't actually need to think so much about the steps. And that's why we do so much rehearsal. We do a lot of rehearsal so we can actually focus on the performance in itself rather than thinking about the steps, if that makes sense. Okay? Guys, we're running out of time for questions, so I'm going to move on to our next section. So, over the last century or so, choreographers have started to use the ballet technique in a very different way, often by recreating the traditional ballets like Swan Lake, Giselle or more, or creating new ones on more modern stories like Dracula or Gatsby, the movie even. And they even started creating works that don't necessarily have a story, but focus on the dancer's abilities and skills and explore theme and ideas in a very different way. And that evolution of the dancing and as well as the partnering, as you will see in the partnering, also evolved as you can see the guys using very different grips, like under the armpits or the elbows, something that you would never see in a traditional ballet. And that in that evolution of dance we called neoclassical. And in neoclassical dance, you can still recognize the ballet lines, so the straight knees, the pointed feet, but that whole technique is being pushed beyond what the traditional ballet vocabulary allows. And that constant evolution of dance is actually amazing because it allows for so many more opportunities to create new works and new ballets. And there's a constant change and constantly innovative system into the choreography, and that's really beautiful. So for the next section, actually just before that, do you know of any Singaporean choreographer? Right, absolutely. So Chusan Go, right? So Chusan was a Singaporean artist who moved to Europe first in the 1970s, and for over 20 years he established himself as a brilliant dancer and amazing choreographer. And nowadays you can still watch his creations if you attend the performances by Singapore Ballet, as it is a very important part of their repertoire, and I really strongly encourage you to watch your national company. Over there, yes. All right, so for our next section, we have prepared a neoclassical pas de deux for you, which I have choreographed myself to show you how the traditional technique can be used in a different way to create a ballet. And before we start that segment, I would like to share that if you were to become more interested in watching performances, you can catch a free show by the National Contemporary Ballet outside at the Outdoor Theatre at 8 p.m. or 9:50 p.m. tonight. It's a free show and you're welcome to attend, and I encourage you to check out all the other programs that Esplanade offers over the weekend. Please enjoy this last pas de deux, which we have created especially for this performance. Thank you for coming tonight, and we hope to see you at more dance shows. Thank you and good night.